Hey guys, another reading month is in the books. Let's see how it went. That means it's time for my July reading wrap up. Let's get into it. I started the month with my graphic novel pick, and that is Sapiens, A Graphic History, The Pillars of Civilization, Volume 2, but you can read these in any order. This is by Yuval Noah Harari, David Vandermeulen, and Daniel Casanave. This was a great adaptation because I have read the original book format, normal book nonfiction format, and it was a great refresher for me because it has been a few years since I originally read Sapiens, and I think this is a great place to go if you are somebody who doesn't typically read nonfiction because it's told in a casual and witty style, but you're still learning something new. However, this was a lot of info coming at me pretty fast because graphic novels, they are told in a pretty fast style, and as you can see, there's a lot going on the page. I'm worried about if this information is going to stick to my brain or not. Also, it was very repetitive, getting the same point across so many times where I feel like we didn't need all of that because why do we need to hear the same point over and over? And that point is so much of what we know is a man-made construct, rather that be government, romanticism, languages, money, all of that's man-made. I'm somebody who loves history, but I haven't thought much about the agricultural revolution, and that is what this book is talking about. And talking about, is it a mistake or was it not? I personally don't think it was. Everything happens for a reason, and we wouldn't be where we are today without that revolution. And it really shows how revolutions, they build. It's not just something that happens in one generation. It forms from all the generations and people that came before you. This was good. I would recommend it with a maybe because there were some flaws, and I know that it's not going to be for everyone. Next, we have my favorite book of the month, and I did it as a mood read. That is Margo's Got Many Troubles by Rufi Thorpe. These characters, I didn't realize how much they meant to me until chaos ensued, aka when Becca entered the plotline. That's when it got kind of crazy, and I was rooting for my girl Margo. Another thing is the relationships depicted here are done in such a strong way, and that was one of my favorite parts of this book, of just seeing how strongly written the relationship. I did love the character of Margo. Now, she is very quirky, but it's done in a realistic way of like, yeah, there are definitely people out there like that, because a lot of times writers try to make things quirky and it just comes off as cringe, but this comes off as realistic. The atmosphere I did love. It is campy. It's very California. If you're looking for a book to know what everyday normal life is like in California and Southern California at that, this would be a great one to try. It is very unique. It starts in second person perspective, but we see first and third person perspective as well. Margo herself is a writer, and I believe that it's told in this writing style to show how your life can be viewed at so many different angles, and how your experience is viewed in so many different ways, and is there one right way to do life? So this is, I think it's very unique how the writing style plays a part of the themes of the story. This was a very unique premise, and the situation that Margo is in, I'm sure plenty of women in our day and age are thinking about doing the same thing. This humanizes careers in social media and sex work alike, and how that is becoming a forerunner in our society, and I think we're going to see more and more media that depicts that, as it is just something that is becoming more in the forefront, where it's not as taboo as it was. It doesn't glamorize those careers, because a lot of people are like, okay, I'm going to become an influencer, make a lot of money. Guys, I've been doing this since 2012, and no, that's not how it goes. This shows the reality of being on social media and being involved in sex work as well, and the impacts that those careers have on your life and your relationships. This book also shows what it is like to be a mother and what is a mother's role. And again, it doesn't glamorize it, because being a young single mother, it's not easy. I can't speak from experience, but from our character, it's not something that is easy. And again, we're seeing how all these different people view her, and how that decision to become a mother has that impact on her relationships, on her career, and on all different fields of her life. I wouldn't say I was ever bored with this book, but I do think it was a tad too long, which is saying something, because look how short that is. It did take a while to get to that OnlyFans plot line, because I was just reading it. I don't really read the blurbs. I knew what this book was about, obviously, because it is very popular, and there has been a TV show made recently, which I have started. but we don't get that main point until about 25%, so there's a lot of building. And a lot of times today we jump right into stories, but this did have that building of Margo and how she got into this situation, which I think is really important for her character. And the logic, it was so nice to see characters use communication with one another. I loved that so much and thought everything depicted here was done in such a realistic manner. I really loved that. But I loved seeing the strong relationships between the characters. I love the comedic tone of this book. Now, the writing did take a little while to get used to, but overall, I did really enjoy this book and would recommend it. Now we have the book that I read with my book club, and that is The Wedding People by Allison Espich. Our main character is Phoebe, and she started out weak for me. I didn't like her. I thought she was very unlikable at first. We are meeting her when she's in the depths of her depression, and when that's happening to somebody, they're not only going to be likable, but the reading experience wasn't enjoyable for me in those early parts. I was so scared. But overall, she turns into a very relatable character, a very real character. I compare this to Melissa Broder because she's very blunt. She can be crude. The book in general can be blunt and crude, and that's not going to be for everybody. But she was ultimately relatable at the end of the day, and I loved seeing the chemistry between these characters, all of them, and just how they bounced off each other. I love that, and I think that was the strongest point of this book. The setting is so dreamlike, and this is perfect for the New England summer vibes. At first, I was very scared when I saw how long the chapters are, but honestly, they fly by. I never felt bogged down. I thought this book would take me a long time to read after that first chapter because of the character work that I was having issues with, but overall, it did not take me as long to read as I thought it would. However, it did get a little bit wordy at times. The dialogue was golden. It was so good. This is such an intelligent book. I think if you're somebody who loves literature in general, you're really going to enjoy this. It's not your typical summer beach read. I think if you're somebody who likes dark academia and just academia settings, this is one that you might like. The main theme here is the unpredictability of life, and we're seeing all these characters break out of a mold that they thought they were permanent in, that they were set in, but we are seeing Phoebe and all the other characters just find who they are and what they really want out of life. And I think that's a powerful story. Even with the main theme of this book being the unpredictability of life and that life can always change, your circumstances are always temporary, I found the book to be predictable. I predicted a lot of it by chapter 4, so that was gonna... The book overall had a weak start, but a strong ending, and I did enjoy seeing how we got to that ending. All the characters were dimensional. The mental health depictions, I think, were done very well, but overall I was going along with the notions of this story. It didn't do a whole lot for me in some regards, but I did really love seeing how the characters bounced off each other and the chemistry that they had with one another, so yes, this is one that I would recommend. Talk about the anthology that I read this month. That is Bret Easton Ellis and the Other Dogs by Lena Wolf, translated by Frank Perry. I really liked how the character of Alba was explored, but as the story went on, that kind of went out the door. But I did really like the vibes of this book, the Euro summer vibes. If you're traveling Southern Europe, this would be a book that I would bring with me to read on the shores of the Mediterranean, getting a little poetic there. But the plot lost me because it really wasn't as described. It didn't come as advertised. That I did tend to lose interest in the plot. So this is one that I would maybe recommend. Again, I think it would be great just for vacation, but overall I don't think this is a memorable read. Now we have Beach Read by Emily Henry. Beach Read is one where the characters had so much potential. They had their layers, they had the trauma, they had baggage, but I never felt the connection to them. As the book went on, I grew frustrated with our main female character of January, where there just wasn't evidence for the anxiety and for the feelings that she was feeling. I know that anxiety is irrational, trust me, I know, and I know that dating and romance comes with that anxiety, but as a reader, I need evidence there, or this is just gonna look kind of dumb. It was lacking logic in that regard, so I was becoming really frustrated with her, and that was kind of hindering my reading experience. And also, this is a romance, and I did not feel the chemistry or emotion between these characters, and with it being a romance, that's kind of the point. The atmosphere, I don't think this title really falls back on the atmosphere, but I did love Pete's house. It was so whimsy, grandma core, reminded me of Practical Magic. I did really like that. Another slow building story, slow burn romance, but with the writing style, it wasn't that lengthy and I was able to get through it quite fast. There were some beautiful passages about romance and life that it was reflective at times, and I can appreciate that. But the plot stems back on the beach read, on romance as a genre and why people enjoy it, because this is a genre that does have a formula. You know the characters are going to have that happy ending. You know they're going to get together. But in this world we live in, a lot of people lack control of their circumstances that they are living in. So going to a romance book, they have that control. They know what's going to happen. They know everything's going to work out. And that can be inspiring. It can be hopeful. And it just makes so much sense why romance is such a popular genre, because we go through hard stuff and sometimes you just need that escapism. Since I didn't feel the connection between the characters, I didn't have a whole lot of intrigue while reading this, and I was just going along with the motions. It wasn't a bad book. It was ultimately a book with a lot of potential, so this is one that I would recommend with a mate. Lastly, we have the book that I finished last night, and that is Angels and Demons by Dan Brown. The characters and just the cast of characters is put together so well, but I'm starting to think they were there for the sake of the plot, as this is definitely a plot-driven story. It's all told in one day, so I don't think there was great development in the characters, and I didn't feel a strong connection to the characters. And since this is a series, I wasn't too worried about them, and I feel like with a thriller, you have to have those stakes, but the stakes weren't there for me. But I did love the atmosphere of this book. We started out at CERN, and CERN was only a place I'd ever heard about. I've never seen pictures of it or anything like that, so it was really cool getting to experience that in such a unique setting. Then we go south to the Vatican and Rome, and I love that. If you're somebody who loves the Renaissance like I do, this is going to give you some of that. This is another slow building story, but you never feel bogged down because the chapters are so short. Now, I do think this could be diced down, doesn't need to be nearly 600 pages in length, but again, there were lots of thought-provoking pieces. The main themes here are science and religion and how they can coexist and come together, and can you have one without the other? I don't think so. But I love seeing those themes, and it just validated some stuff for me, and it explained those themes so clearly. But a lot of the science stuff, especially at CERN, did go over my head, and I do feel like it was kind of central to the story and to the plot of what was going on. Again, I didn't feel the stakes for this, and this being a thriller, I feel like I needed to have that. The ending did lack logic for me because some things just went too nicely, they went too well for our characters, and other things were just so crazy and out there, and I'm like, what am I reading? I can definitely see why this is a movie, because it reads like an action movie. Overall, this is one that I would recommend with a maybe. Let me know what was your favorite book that you read in July. If you made it through this whole video, leave a birthday emoji in the comments below. And as always, comment, rate, and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. I'll see you in my next one. Bye. If you are familiar with my videos, you're used to seeing Sherman at the end of them. Sadly, Sherman has since passed away, but I would still like to encourage you guys to help your local shelters. Sherman was at the Darlington County Humane Society in rural South Carolina. I always have their link down below in the description if you guys would like to help them, but also help your local shelters as well. You can do that by donating, sharing posts like this one, volunteering, fostering, and adopting, which it's great to do all of those things. Great to help your community, great to help the animals in your community, and I cannot recommend it enough. All of my pets were rescues, they were strays or from animal shelters, and I love them so much, and I know how much love they can give, so knowing these pets at the shelter can equally give that much love, it's amazing. And y'all should totally take part and help out those local animal shelter pets, and please help them.